Hello and welcome everybody. Some live coding tonight as part of our development series. We will do some work on an issue regarding environment variables. We need an application built with coon.js. coon.js is, as you might know, a toolset for rapid Ext JS application building. And tonight we want to extend the functionality to access ExtJS environment variables. We need this because we have this application implementation which extends Ext app application. And the main functionality of this application class is that it basically gives you the possibility to hook into the launch process and register package controllers automatically. This has the advantage that you can, during the runtime, easily plug in and plug out functionality of the software you're building with this toolset. And we need to read out configuration files, which usually are in the resources folder. And for this purpose, we want to refactor the application class, make sure that some functionality is removed from it and put into other utility classes, because we want to take care that the responsibility of the application class is not in such a big way as it is implemented right now. It's way too much, and the class gets a little bit, you don't find your way around so easily because there are a lot of helper functions and we need to put them out there. So for this purpose, we have implemented a base class, which is VendorBase, and it's part of the Coon core env package. And this is some kind of abstract interface providing the methods get resource path, get environment, get package. And today we want to implement these methods. There won't be a lot of talking today because it's mainly coding. If there are some interesting parts, I will definitely tell you about them. For now, the whole construct is that I want to implement the VendorBase, which is kind of an adapter, which follows kind of an adapter pattern. Later on you have this vendor manager, and you simply provide the information which kind of vendor you're using in your application. This has the advantage that if you want to use coon.js in another environment which has nothing to do with ExtJS, which is entirely possible, you have all the functionality abstracted and you can easily plug in, plug out those vendor adapters to make sure you have access to the resources. And what you're doing in your code base is you simply query the vendor manager for the methods, and the vendor manager should give you access to all the methods you have implemented in the adapter. If you're interested in this project, go to github.com/coon-js. You will find a few packages there, which you should be able to easily integrate into your running application. There's also some documentation in lib-cnfport, which is like the main package for using the coon.js core and some helper packages. And it explains how you can build an application with the help of coon.js and how you utilize the whole concept of package controllers to easily add functionality to your application. So let's do some coding. might be away from the camera because I have coffee in the kitchen. Need to get that. So we have this coon core Ext.manifest reader, which is the class name of the prototype I've built. We have to rename that, definitely. It's in the namespace coon core and Ext VendorBase. And requires coon core util, which gives us access to some helper methods like unchain. We need that to read out specific keys from Ext.manifest. Basically, what we want to do later on is we want to create an instance of this class, which will be done automatically later on by the application. And we want to, we have the Ext.manifest object, which holds, for example, keys like production. I'm not sure if production is available. At least the keys added by hand are available. This one, quickly show this one to you. So we have the application JSON, and what we have done here is, let me find it quickly. Need to look it up. Okay, it's not in here. But we can add keys like this. I might fumble around from time to time in the code. Don't let this distract you. This is not a prepared session anyway. Might have to do some configuration. This is, you know, day-to-day work where you're not can plan ahead so much. One more thing is we have Siesta running for the tests. That's a tool made by Matt's Prince. Matt's Prince. Let me open up a package. Tests. And I'm in the package app cn mail. I need to go to cn just local libcn core. This is the name of the core package of coon.js on which we're working today. And this is basically the tool I'm doing the tests with. And this is actually the current state of the application with the login dialog. We can read out the manifest file here. Let's see what we got. Okay, one common use case later on in the application is we need to access information provided by the packages. You would see, you can see some packages like epsilon mail, which are dynamic packages, which means the application has no idea that this package is being used. And we plug it in by defining it as a coon.js package. And we specify a controller property and say it's true. And once the application reads that property out, loads the package and registers the controller as a package controller in the application. And the application will later on initialize this controller, and the controller itself will, if necessary, like for example, if you have typed in root in the address bar, it will then create the view and show it to you on the screen. Once we have done some coding, we will deep dive into this concept in another series. For now, let me show you how to dynamically add, information to the app JSON so we can read it out in the environment later on. I need to turn off the JSON warnings. I thought I've done it today, but apparently it's because I opened the project folder. I have opened the whole project folder. Including the conjune. Well, I think it might be the case that PHP Storm did save the configuration in another project file, which I've opened previously. Let me see if that helps. It helps here. See if this is still working. JSON. No, we do not want this. That's okay, that's okay. Let us turn this off. Get back to the code and make sure we can work with this properly. Okay, so let's get back to the app JSON and let's see how this works. Let's add the key coon.js with an env property which holds a string development, and we need to build this with Zencha app build dev users. We need the users switch to make sure that the build process recognizes all the packages which are not required but which are used in the current mode we're using here for building the application. I'll check for the coffee while this builds. Will take some time. Right, there we go. Let's see what it gives. Okay, you see now that we have used the dev switch for building the application, and runs into this section, reads out this property, and makes it available in the manifest later on. Yeah, here it is. So that would be a way to configure the app.json to make sure that we have a flag in our manifest later on, which tells us that we are in development mode. We'll add this to the production section with another value for env. This will be production. Okay, and one thing you have to take care of is you have to make sure that when you are in packages, there's a section called Zencha, and you need to place your custom properties into the section. You cannot place it globally in the object because it won't be part of the manifest properties later on, because this is not recognized if you would put it, if you remove it here and if you put it here, not into the Zencha section, this won't be available. So make sure if you're using packages and you want to use custom properties, place them in the Zencha section. Okay, now we have made sure that this one's working. Let's get back to the VendorBase of libc and core. This is our utility class. This is the environment package. This is the VendorBase, and this is the interface for it. And here's the implementation for the ExtJS VendorBase. All right. So we give some code examples here. Basically, this is what I've written in the app.json now, part of production or development section. Okay, and we want to have access to this key vendor get coon.js.env. So this is how we want to access the keys for the environment. And we want to implement this in the get method because the epidocs say so. So one of the questions was if I call get for an environment key and the environment is not available due to some somewhat behavior, should it throw an exception or should it simply return undefined? And at this point, I opted to simply return undefined and let the application, which is using the VendorBase later on, take care of either throwing an exception or the common error handling. Because I think throwing an exception here at this point doesn't make so much sense. We could go and catch the exception later on, but if you have a lot of exceptions, you have your code later on cluttered with lots of catch and tries. So I think it's better at this point to simply return undefined and check for an undefined value and let the application later on either fall back if it expects an undefined or not. If the application needs to check whether the environment is available, it still can use methods found in the VendorBase to run some process to make sure the program behaves as expected. So this is what the method should do. And it does not throw. Returns mixed for either the value or undefined. See, that's the good thing about open source projects. If you don't like it, you can change it later on. The implementation. Okay, the coon core util method, which is coon core util, has an alternative class name, but I think I will remove that because it's not needed. It will use the key for this object and look if the key chain exists in this object and usually returns the value for it or undefined if it's not found. Okay, then we have the method get resource path, and what it needs to do is, hold on, we need to place this document at the interface. Here we go. Okay, then we have get resource path, and what it should do is it should return the path for the resource we're trying to query. We usually use get resource path from Ext directly and pass a string, and the string gets prepended with the resource path that is the path to the folder recognized by an ExtJS application where you usually put all the static resources in. And so we simply wrap this around and make sure it's available if we use other vendor implementations later on. Make it like this. And we pass this argument. That should be okay. Yeah, you see I have a lot of calls to get resource path. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I do not make this calls directly, but instead use something like coon vendor manager get resource path, and the vendor manager holds the adapter, or is the plug VendorBase we are implementing right now, and it makes the instantiated VendorBase available to the whole framework, to the whole application, without having to be specific which kind of vendor we're using in each and every part of the code. So we have get is already implemented. Right. This one. Okay, this one tells us that we want to have the whole environment, not specific key, get the value, but the whole environment. In ExtJS, that would be the whole manifest object. Return. So okay, and here we want to return package information. And we usually do that by looking up at the package name in Ext.manifest. We are using the unchain method for util here again. And we provide the following chain for it. That should be packages. Let's have a look at the Ext.manifest we have opened here. The key is packages, followed by the package name, and we'll then retrieve all the information we can find. So let's add a few more examples we can use in test case later on. vendor.get environment. This should be Ext.manifest. Vendor get package. Packages. This is, hold on, let me quickly have a look. Yeah, that's an object, not an array. This should return Ext.manifest. Ext.manifest packages my package, and we have vendor get. I think it's better we rename this method. Get path for resource. It's more, provides more information in the method name instead of get resource path, because that you would basically think that resource get resource path simply returns the resource path as defined by the application. But we want to have the resource path we are providing the information for in form of a folder name. We want that whole resource path returned. Okay, we have get path for resource. That is one. Get path for resource is next get resource path. Returns. Build. Development. Resources. Key. This should return the same. Okay, that's it. We can add the tests now. By creating a new group here in the Siesta configuration file. Data. and we add an object. That should be okay. We usually have that already. Okay, what do we want to test for? We will create an instance of Coon Core and VendorBase. And we simply check for the availability of the methods to make sure the interface is complete. Also, it doesn't make much sense here in this ExtJS environment. The ecosystem is a little bit, outdated. The framework doesn't use a lot of the modern features ECMAScript provides. So let's keep it simple. We need to have the get method, and that is empty. We have the get path for resource. We have get environment, and we have get package. That's it. So let's reload our test suite. And let's look up environment, which is actually missing. Let's have a look. The index file. Okay, the group is here. It should appear right before text. Of course. There you go. Okay, all the tests were successful. So this file is still missing. Oh, the name is wrong. Okay, let's go ahead and simply copy paste. And let's test for the implementation. For this one, we have to make sure we're using mocks for Ext.manifest. And we will use the before each and after each of Siesta, the test cases, to set them up and to destroy them afterwards. We have this code already. Let's simply use the manifest we are defining here. Ext VendorBase tests. The Ext.manifest coon.js. Let's divide this one. We make this one globally available. If VendorBase and destroy, call the destructor of XBase and set this one to null and create this one here, so we don't have to do it in each test case. Let's check for get. Let's check for the environment. So this should be the Ext.manifest object. Then we need get package. Some package should be undefined since it's not defined in our Ext.manifest object. And we have my package. My package. That should be Ext.manifest packages, my package. Okay, let's load the test and see if we have done something wrong. My package. Okay, we have, let's see how our implementation looks. Package name. Of course, we have forgotten to specify the object in our implementation where the package should be looked up. Everything's fine so far. Now we will have a look at the get resource path. We're calling get resource path with 3 arguments, and we will create a spy now in our test to make sure that we are doing the proper call to the ExtJS implementation of the resource path. Get path for resource. Some resource should be Ext get resource path. Some resource. The call to get resource path is always kind of fuzzy for me, because the arguments you usually don't have to provide them, but you can. But I still haven't figured out in all these years of ExtJS development in what kind of use cases they're useful. So if you have any idea, please let me know. I always use them like this, null and empty string. But that would be good. Oh, you know what? We can have a look in the implementation of it. Let's open up the debug file of Ext and have a look at the resource path implementation. Takes a while to load. Okay, path, pool name, package name. Okay, our third argument is package name. And I think it simply pushes both of the values to the output stack and joins them. So looks like kind of postfixes you can provide, just like the path will be prefixed with the resource path obviously defined via Ext.manifest. Let's have a look at Ext.manifest. Oh, okay. Well, let's open up the application. We need to look up the key resources, and this one's here. Okay, this is the resource path ExtJS returns. All right. So by knowing this, we should be able to do 2 checks beforehand, so we do not have to mock the method. T expect Ext get resource path to be defined. To be truthy. So let's make sure we get some kind of value that is not null, undefined, or falsy. This one. We will also have a look at the output. Resource path and resource path. Let's see what it gives us. Nothing at all, because we have mocked our Ext.manifest now, and as we have seen, the get resource path accesses Ext.manifest, tries to access the resources property. So let's mock this one. Path. Well, we do not want to mock the functionality, we want to rely on the implementation of ExtJS we're using with Siesta. But that should be a different version from the version we're using in our application, because we need to configure Siesta with the same version. We should configure it with the same version we're using. So we do this usually in our setup, in our test config. Yeah, we usually access a specific version of Ext.org, and that is found in the build ordner of the framework SDK folder. Should make sure you should always make sure that the resource is the same as the version your application uses. Otherwise, you know, behavior might be unexpected. You get errors where you are not expecting errors. So let's fall back to temp.manifest. Let's write this one back in this specific test. And let's check the resource path again. It's not set. 78. Let's see what it does. It queries Ext.manifest. And this is obviously not set with Siesta because we're most likely because we're not in an application. Because we're not testing an application, and if we're not testing an application, we don't have a manifest file. So let's finally add the resources. Path is foo. And shared is bar. Okay, but we definitely need to check with a spy for the call. We are creating a spy on get resource path. I think that's the correct argument order. Let's see. The other way around, most likely. Okay, now we have the spy and we need to expect spy what's most recent args 0 to be because we're calling get resource path on Ext with some resource null and empty string to be some resource. Checking for the second one, which should have been null, and the last one is an empty string. All right. to be Ext.manifest resources path. Some resource. We also check for, doesn't check for existing, so doesn't make sense to check for undefined or a truthy value. Okay, we have still some thing that is not correct. Get resolved by the path. No, I think I have the wrong index. Is that possible? Yes. Okay, that works. And that's okay for now regarding the test cases we want to implement. Manifest. Okay, that means we can go ahead, take a look at CN core, the issues. So that would be issue 29. We commit this one now. In the wrong folder. Packages, local, labcn core. Should be on the 29 branch. Yes, that's correct. Okay, and we will now commit the new classes. But before we do this, we run slet and see if we have provided clean code. npx slet not sure if I should provide the ignore pattern. Let's see what it does. Oh, that's okay. The VendorBase and the VendorBase test, they have a few issues. And they have this in. It's not shown. This one's disabled. It shouldn't be disabled. Let's see why it is disabled. something's missing regarding the configuration. I'm gonna fix it by hand now and see why the IDE doesn't work with JSLint right now. Maybe some kind of memory issue. Okay, we have the VendorBase and line 45. And this one's here. It has 2 tabs. And we have, that should be fixed now, 55. What does 55? That's probably the unused variable. Let's see if this one's fixed. And we have line 34 in the VendorBase test of Ext. Line 34. Okay, we don't want to commit application and config loader. We will take care of this another time. This time, simply add both of the new files in the changed index. Ext JS, CN core 29. All right. Okay, that's about it. Despite some issues with the IDE in the end regarding ESLint, everything worked out well so far. The implementation wasn't so huge. See you next time we do some live coding. I guess the next session will deal with gluing it all together and making sure we are going to the actual milestone described in the ticket, writing the config loader, which is responsible for loading configuration files based on the information we find in the Ext.manifest or the environment variables as specified by our VendorBase. Thank you very much. See you next time.